been almost 2 years since I have been in sabbatical from social media, and it's a great time in May to do this because 6 years ago in May I had the knock from the universe, and I had a spiritual awakening. And a year after that, in May, I quit my job that it took me 20 years to build. And a year after that, I was not ready to do anything. I wasn't ready to share. I wasn't ready to go back to work. So I sold my house so that I can sustain a life of introspection and search. And that was also in May of 2019. And a year later, 2020, life gifted me the opportunity to focus on what I will be potentially sharing for the rest of my life, which is a journey of forgiveness, of compassion, of loving life and reconnecting to it. And I started a program in 2020 teaching this, a 3-month program. And after that program completed, I didn't feel prepared to share that depth of understanding and that depth of connection with self, because I didn't feel that I embodied the things that I was talking about. And so it took me another year to work on integrating my own program. And I thought I was going to go and share with all of you in 2021, but I wasn't ready. And I put myself in a 2-month silent meditation retreat in 2022, thinking that I was going to come out of it and I was going to be ready to share and integrate my, at the time, 5 years of search. But I wasn't. And so 2022 was another year that I took to integrate. I took myself to another 3 months of silent retreat, Vipassana. As some of you may remember from back in the day, how I used to talk about these retreats and how powerful they were. And so I still wasn't ready to share the end of 2022. I took myself to another Vipassana retreat for another 2 months. So I've spent the last 7 months, not last 7 consecutive, but in the last year, 7 months of silent retreats to feel that I have touched on the depth of the significance of this work, and that I can embody it at a cellular level. And what's interesting is, as I start to contemplate what I wanted to share, as I contemplated, okay, where do I even start as I resurface from 2 years of being offline? So I came up with 3 things that I wanted to share today. So at the core of all of it, of 6 years of introspection and this internal journey, like, what are the 3 things that pop out as absolutely most significant? And it boils down to 3 topics: is my relationship with myself, my relationship with life, and my relationship with other people. So it comes down to relationships. And as I was contemplating that, I realized that back when I was in India in 2018, and I thought of how to communicate the journey that I had been in for several years, those are literally the 3 things that I wrote down when I was in India. And as I look back at what I want to share and how to share it, it always boils down to those 3 things. It's how do you relate to yourself? And that's the most drastic change that I see in my life today, in contrast to my life 6 years ago and prior to that, how I relate to my thoughts, how I relate to what arises in me emotionally, the thoughts that are constantly feeding my experience, and I identify with them or not identify with them. The ability to be present, the ability to focus on what is happening here and now. And as I continue to dive into relating to myself, life brought me to this concept of forgiveness. And I didn't even understand why forgiveness went. I'll share that story another time, but I didn't even understand why teach forgiveness. And which was something that came to me in meditation once, and I'll share that in another post. But in the last 3 years, as I have practiced it and integrated it, it's extremely evident that the reason why forgiveness is because most of our suffering requires forgiveness. Most of our conflicts are internal. All of our conflicts are internal, but that's another topic. When we are going through life, we tend to have this disconnect between the beliefs that we hold and the actions that we take, and that disconnect creates an internal tension. There's this suffering that happens inside of us, which requires so much compassion and so much forgiveness to see it, to acknowledge that it's there instead of hiding from it or pretending that it's not there or pretending it's not us. It requires an incredible amount of courage to see our own patterns and accept that they're there without blaming, without making ourselves bad, without condemning ourselves or others. And so that on its own has been the core of the shifts that I've seen in my life, and that relating to myself differently has completely altered the way I see life, the way I see my relationships with others. And so I used to feel like life was this battlefield where it was me against the world, and that has completely shifted for me. Life is constantly an ally. Life is constantly supportive. It's constantly providing the opportunities to choose differently at every single moment. It's the reason why we're here. It's the reason why we are empowered to, at any single moment, choose again. How do we want to relate to whatever happens in our life, internally or externally? And what I've noticed is that just intention on its own is incredibly powerful. And I will share so many magical stories of how this whole concept of forgiveness and compassion came to me. And that's as an example of what I mean, that you just set the intention of wanting to show up differently, and life will bring us the circumstances, the inspirations, the people that we need in order to walk the path that we have chosen. I did not see it before like that. I thought that it was all me, the ego me, needing to do everything by myself. I didn't feel supported. I didn't feel loved or cared for by anyone. But I then realized that, again, my relationship with self, I had to learn to love myself. I had to learn how to see things differently. And then suddenly life became this mysterious, magical playing field that I couldn't perceive before. But the only thing that really changed was my internal world, my internal vantage point, my perception of life. And of course, that leads to my relationship with other people. I'm just going to say to that I was extremely successful at having one-off relationships that lasted a few hours at work or with friends. I could like show up and be a normal human being interacting with another normal human being. But my relationships, I couldn't really say that they were harmonious, especially the intimate relationships with my family, with the people that I love the most. It's almost as if I could succeed in the world as long as there was a distance. Now, the moment that those relationships were close, it's like they didn't go anywhere. It was not harmonious. It didn't feel good. It didn't feel supportive. And all of that changed before my eyes as I worked on me. So that's the gist of the core of what it means to have this spiritual awakening and spiritual journey for me. And I share with excitement that I am going to show up more often, and I will be providing more details. And I welcome you to either message me or post comments and let me know if there's anything in particular that stands out for you that you would love me to talk more about, whether my own transformation or how does it feel to be homeless for so long, to let go of everything that you're worked for, to follow this intuition, or whatever feels most supportive for you. Let me know, and I will definitely be eager to talk more about those topics. So I think I'm going to leave it here for now. Thank you for watching and for your time, and may the beautiful spring, summer weather replete you with peace and love. Be blessed.